Colt Cabana bringing us into this segment, a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion himself, as is the man joining us now on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina Hotline. As I said, also a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, a good friend of ours, and Mama Storm's baby boy. Tim Storm, how are you, sir?
Stu, Justin, man, and thank you guys for having me. I'm doing really good.
Okay,
you know, all things considered, I'm doing really well.
Good. Is the family doing okay? Everybody's okay now?
Yeah, you know, it's I hate to use the cliche, but these are our new norm. Trying times, all the things that people say. But I've got I'm sure like everybody does. I've got people in my family that are a little susceptible to things, and so far, everybody's healthy and happy and doing well.
Okay, we got to ask the most important question of this whole interview. We just had Mother's Day. What did you do for Mama Storm?
Sent Mom a card and large print puzzle books. She was very disappointed that I didn't make the trip. It's probably the toughest thing so far about the whole pandemic and the quarantine is it's that really, really weird balance of, I've got to do the right thing to protect her, mm-hmm. From potential and not have her upset that, I wasn't there for Mother's Day. And really what are we at, week 8? So it's been a couple of months, and I talk to her every day anyway, but there's nothing that replaces that hug for Mom, and getting to see her. So, but it's a balance that I'm not alone. A lot of people are having to make those hard decisions, and I just know that for me personally, I couldn't live with myself if I knew that I brought something in, that made my mom sick, especially at 95 years old. So, just having to do the right thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's a tough balance for sure, but safety and health and welfare is paramount. So I totally get it. Yeah. Now, one of the things that has come out, that you talk about a lot is your career as a teacher, and right. So how I want to find out as a teacher how much this has affected you with schools closing down for the rest of the year, and how you relate to your students about what's happening. Just talk about that connection you have and what you deal with as a teacher during this pandemic.
It's a difficult situation for everybody. Where I'm at in Euless, Texas, it's a large percentage of our student body is economically disadvantaged, and for every household, and let's say at my junior high, it's 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and in a school that's built for about 900 students, we have about 1,200. There's expansion going on. People are moving in constantly, and for me personally, if there are 300 and something 8th graders, which is what I teach, 8th grade, that's 300 and something different situations that each one of those students may have at their house. You don't know if it's, maybe a parent working from home and 3 siblings, all school age, that have one home computer or a telephone, a phone that may or may not have Wi-Fi, and how are they going to be able to function online? It's a challenging situation, and to be able to kind of, they've got 7 classes, and to potentially be able to do all the work for all those classes, we just have to be very, very sensitive to, what could be their needs. We have as I'm sure people are doing nationwide, we've got online classwork, Google Classroom where they can log in and see their assignments. And I do, it's become just the norm now, but, a Zoom video or Loom video every week, kind of laying out this is your assignment. This is what we're talking about, a brief lesson, and be aware of how much time they may or may not have. So it's definitely a challenge. In my opinion, it's nowhere near as effective for learning as, my gift is standing up in front of students and talking, and that's gone. That's not even an option. So, and at this point going forward, none of us knows, how long, obviously we're done for the year, but, depending on which of the rumors you're believing, this could have a second wave coming, in the fall or in the winter, and we may be doing this again. So, it's a challenge.
It is challenging. Remind everybody what subject you teach.
I teach U.S. history,
Yeah.
and really it's, they say 1215 through post Civil War, but really that 1215, it really starts with, Jamestown, and then all the way through Civil War and Reconstruction. So
Okay.
eighth grade U.S. history. I taught science for 5 years. I'm finishing my 6th year of U.S. history. I made a change,
And
about halfway through.
And Tim, how many teacher gimmicks have you had throughout your career
As far as what?
in professional wrestling?
How many teacher gimmicks have I had? Like how many times have I
Have you ever
done that?
used it?
Never.
Never.
I've been wrestling for 25 years, and I come from the old school, which is there were some things that you just protected from the fans. You didn't like, for me personally, my thing was I wanted to keep my family separate. I didn't want, anybody to really, because my wrestling personality, people could love me or hate me, but that shouldn't affect my family.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been the older guy because I didn't start till I was, a little over 30. I didn't want anybody to really know how old I was. I didn't want that to affect anything. And I didn't want anybody to know I was a teacher, not because it embarrassed me, but because, as a professional wrestler, kind of what the image you want to project. And it's just from being an old school guy, you wanted to have everybody believe that you were rolling up in a limo, making millions of dollars because you're a professional wrestler. And, those 3 things I protected for a really long time, until the new ownership group with NWA, when I, as the world champion, approached me and said, "We think you have a really interesting story that people would like to hear. We would like to open that up." And, it took a little time for both sides to kind of build that trust and, friendship. And I just opened it up, and that became the 10 Pounds of Gold series. That was kind of the launching point for the new NWA.
Was it difficult kind of breaking away from that old school mentality to allow them to come into your life? Like, how long did you wrestle with that thought about, should I, shouldn't I?
It was definitely difficult. And it wasn't the trust that was difficult. It was just opening that part of my life up to people. And really, I like who I am. It doesn't bother me who I am, but that's just not how I was brought into the business. And then there's some, there's always that little bit of question of, what if people don't like who I am? And the first episode of 10 Pounds of Gold, I caught a lot of backlash on it, not from workers, but from fans. And it was mostly about my age. How can you have, what legitimately is the oldest championship in wrestling? How can you have a guy that's 53 years old and he's a school teacher represent your company? Somewhere around the second episode, people started going, "Wow, this is this is different. This is a good story." And by the third episode, I heard very little of that. And, now it's just public knowledge. Where I go, I've never played the teacher deal. Every once in a while, I'll drop that as in the middle of a promo, where I'll say, summer's here or school's in session. But for the most part, that's just, I did a lot of things before I taught. So that's not even necessarily who I am. It's just what I do.
I understand. Talk with the former NWA World Heavyweight Champion Tim Storm. Tim, they aired the Super Power episode that was supposed to be the go home episode before Crockett Cup for NWA Powerrr tonight. Just talk for a second about how fun it was to watch it on YouTube, and at the same time, I guess there's probably a tinge of disappointment that there isn't going to be a Crockett Cup, at least right now, leading into it. But it was such a good episode. Just talk for a little bit about that.
Well, that has been the whole experience with NWA Powerrr has been, for me personally, has been just fantastic. When you, as a performer, as a professional wrestler, you have no idea how anybody's going to react to you. And the way the NWA, the way, William Patrick Corrigan and Dave Lagana kind of put things together is, and they told, in a all personnel meeting said, this is a different place. We're not going to write promos for you. We're not going to tell you what to say. And basically, we're going to hand you a live mic in front of a crowd with, that's going to go on TV, and you either sink or swim. So the experience from the very beginning has been fantastic. Obviously, I think the world of professional wrestling and the world in general, we're in the middle of something that's a huge change that we're all having to adapt to on a personal level. I'm 56, and I have no clue. Now, let me be completely honest and say I've also been saying this for 16 years, right? I don't know how much time I have left in wrestling. So there is the potential, depending on how long this lasts, that this could actually be taking away, the whatever time I've got left. I don't know. I don't hope not, because I'm chomping at the bit to get back. So, not just Crockett Cup, but man, we had such great momentum, with the NWA, with Powerrr, and with, the pay-per-views were rolling and growing with each one, and the Crockett Cup was going to be our biggest one. So, it's very disappointing. But it's out of everybody's control, and it's affecting. One of the things that I was telling people is prior to all this was a great time to be in wrestling, to watch wrestling. As a fan, as a wrestler, because there were so many new options and so many opportunities. And I'm not saying those opportunities aren't going to be there, but it has changed the world of wrestling. The big promotions are still going to be there, but this has affected some of the smaller indies, which I do a lot of. Some of these guys aren't going to be able to recover from that, and that hurts everybody.
Yeah. I know it's going to be whatever pro wrestling looks like after this is over. It's definitely going to be different from pre-COVID-19. Couple things before I let you go. First of all, in this episode, you had the match with Godzilla Jax Dane, the man that you took the title from several years ago in Sherman. That match looked like it was just as physical as you would expect from you two, and I've known you two forever. I consider you two of my closest friends. Love you both to death. But that was a real throwback match. Just talk about how much you enjoyed being in the ring with Jax, and at the same time, I mean, some of the hits you took, I think you may still be feeling some of those tinges of pain.
Well, Jax and I have locked up. I don't know how many times, 10, 15, 20. I don't know. I think I've probably wrestled him trying to win the NWA world title probably 3 or 4 times. I know I lost the North American title to him in Las Vegas, and then I got it back. I beat him for that world title, and then we had the match that aired tonight. Anytime I get in the ring with Jax, and he'll tell you the same thing, we know what to expect, right? It's 2 big physical guys. And the thing is, and I usually don't speak for other people. I'll speak for Jax on this one, but that's in our wheelhouse. We know that we can go out there and just beat the snot out of each other. And that's what we do. So as sad as as weird as it sounds, that's something I enjoy doing. Try to, put me in a match against a technical wrestler. And it's not that I can't, I just don't enjoy it as much. They gave Jax and I a no disqualification match that we could do anything to each other that we wanted. And we did. And it was brutal. And obviously one of us was bleeding and one of us was concussed and one of us thought we broke a neck, and wow. And we came out of it, I can't wait to do it again. I mean, it's something that's the twisted part of being a professional wrestler. You got to be turned a little bit different. And Jackson, I know that when we get in there, that's what we're going to do to each other. And when we're done, we're going to, regardless of who wins, we're going to shake hands and hopefully go home safe and look forward to doing it again. Yeah. I'd love to work a program with Jackson. Let's do that. 4 or 5 more times. It was that much fun. I'd
be all for it. As I said, I've known both you two for a while. Love you both. Before we go, so at the end of tonight's NWA Powerrr Super Powerrr, William Patrick Horgan announced that in its place for the time being is going to be something called Carnyland. Right. And all we know is the title. And we know that's going to start, I believe, next Tuesday night at 6:05 p.m. Eastern on the NWA YouTube channel. With that, I don't want to get you in trouble, but do you have any idea what this Carnyland thing's going to be?
I have some ideas. At this point, I think it's going to be a big surprise to everybody. And, even as those of us that are, NWA guys, there's been a lot of discussion. We kind of we've all been talked, we've talked about ideas and ways that we can contribute. And just for those listening, because I can't give a lot of information because I don't know either. Like right. I had not seen Jackson and I's match until tonight when everybody else watched it. So I'm on the same page with everybody else. So I'll see it. I'll know what it's going to be when it airs. As far as I know, I'm not a part of this week's, but for wrestling fans or those sports fans that are listening, the term carny comes from carnival, and to be a carny can be a bad thing. It can be a good thing. We all know people who we would say are carnies, and in life in general, there are very specific examples of things that would fit into someone being a carny. I don't want to give anything away, but as a history teacher, man, I'll be careful with this. As a history teacher,
don't get in trouble.
Tell you, I don't think I would, but as a history teacher, for example, let's say the Louisiana Purchase was very carny. Well, I don't get all historical on you, but when we approached France as the United States to buy just the port of New Orleans, so we'd have access to the port through the Mississippi River, we offered $5 million for that. Well, we doubled the size of the United States for $15 million, which turns out to be the greatest land deal of all time, only because Napoleon wanted to finance his war. That's a little bit carny right there, right? So it's a little sneaky. It's things that you would kind of look at and kind of scratch your head and go, "Oh, that's interesting." To me, that's what carny is.
Okay, and that's what we'll be surprised with everybody else. I'm good with that.
Too.
Did we just come up with your new catchprise? I don't want to get all history on you because it sounds like it needs to go on a shirt.
No, I think we need to stick with your still Mama Storm's baby boy.
I will always be Mama Storm's baby boy. I don't design. I have never in my life tried to design a catchphrase. If I said that when I said I'm Mama Storm's baby boy, that was completely. I didn't think through that. I just said it because it's true.
It was organic.
It was a little bit of my ode to Dusty Rhodes, and for whatever reason, the fans loved it and it stuck around.
It stuck around and then some.
You are such a brilliant orator. Like, I don't think people give you enough credit for how well you speak.
Well, here's the funny thing is that there was a very good chance that people wouldn't have liked what I had to say, right? That's wrestling. I don't really plan promos. Like, I'll have kind of a general outline in my head, but one of the things that I got from Dusty Rhodes was you don't plan your promos. You don't practice them, because if you go out, if you practice it in the car 100 times when you get in front of people, it's no longer emotional and passionate. You have to feel it in order for people to, to believe it. And what you hear me say is just me being me. And the fact that people liked it and responded to it was a surprise to me too.
Well, it was. I mean, it was beautiful. It's gold.
It's brilliant.
I think Mama Storm probably should get a little bit of the percentage of the merch money. And I'm sure you find a way to at least take care of her.
She's got a Mama Storm T-shirt, which
that's
is
right.
What I got for
that's
that.
right. She does.
Yeah.
He is Tim Storm, the former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Catch him in the NWA when they get back up and running. And I tell you what, I hope it's soon. Until then, Tim, love you to death. You've been so good to us from the very beginning. All the best to you. All the best to your family, to Mama Storm, to everybody up there. And we'll chat again soon.
Justin, Stu, always a pleasure. Love you guys. Love the show. Always fun to be a part of it and talk to you guys. Thank you so much.